But what he was doing was just music he'd heard from the black Delta blues singers in rural Mississippi. They couldn't get recorded. Elvis could. And he had a brilliant marketing guy. And
Sam Phillips is looking for the next white blues sensation.
And I think I've heard several rap artists say that their business right now is continued by white teenagers buying their music. Mm-hmm. That's what's keeping them afloat.
Yeah, that's right.
From an industry kind of viewpoint. I guess that the only thing I want to say in conclusion is that there are several different ways to look at this. One is from the industry side, the people who create music for whatever is going to pay for the next month's rent. And then there's the moral side, which is the people who are creating it or arranging it or making it happen because they really have a specific ism, a theism, a patriotism, a moralism that they want to put out there for people to ponder.
Like Woody Guthrie, people like that?
Pete Seeger,
yeah.
Kingston Trio.
My nephew's in a band right now that is writing their own stuff and Grammy nominated. They came out of a Christian, all of them were a Christian band to start out with. They no longer categorize themselves that way. But theirs is all original stuff and it's all very much reflective of the lives and relationships of 20-somethings. They're definitely reflecting the culture that they're in. They're extremely successful right now. It's a big name. But it's very interesting to watch that from the family side. They're just reflective of their age.
Yeah, I have great respect for the people who can craft these words into something. I mean, here's one that didn't change anything, but it's indicative of the kind of genius, creative, craftsman, artistic kind of person, Billy Strayhorn, who wrote a song about alcoholism. It's called Lush Life. And it is probably, for jazz musicians, it's that one piece that's always going to be a lifelong work in progress because it's one of those things that's just profound. And he wrote the music and he wrote the lyrics, and it talks about a guy who falls in love, he's hanging out in a bar, and he's found his true love, and of course, most songs are written about either finding love or losing love. And in this case, his love goes away. And the last line he writes is, "Romance is mush, stifling those who strive. I'll live my lush life in some small dive. And there I'll sit while I rot with the rest of those whose lives are lonely too." Now that's deep. He wrote that when he was 18. Billy Strayhorn. That's the craftsman that, or Woody Guthrie, "This land is your land," which I grew up, I didn't realize it was a protest song when I was in the 5th grade singing it, strumming a guitar. It was a protest song. It was written, actually, I've heard some people say it was written as a reaction to God Bless America.
That is correct. Absolutely.
So, I had great admiration for those people.
Well, an interesting example like that I think of is a song that was completely subverted, and that was, and you being a child of the 80s, that's why I think of this, is Bruce Springsteen's song Born in the USA,
oh, yeah.
which was a protest song about, kind of living a working class life in the ashes of Vietnam, and Reagan in 1984 turns it into a campaign song. And the lyrics of the song, other than the chorus, are everything that Reagan was against. And yet, he could take that snippet of chorus and have it blaring out, and it was the soundtrack to Morning in America.
Or, for example, the song, I'm pretty sure my facts are correct on this. Help me out historically, Gaines, if I'm wrong. "I'm Just Wild About Harry." I'm just wild about. Wasn't that a campaign song for Harry Truman?
I think.
Yeah, but it was written by U.B. Blake in about 1915. So something that was appropriated. And let's face it, it's easier to take something that's already a hit because people know it, change a couple of lyrics here and there, and because other than writing a whole brand new song, because you've got to get that song ramped up into stardom.
That's the Bollywood thing. You know, this the film production in India.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What they do there is they release the soundtrack 2 months before the
film
movie
comes out.
They push the music like crazy. Everybody knows all the lyrics to everything, like Magic Flute, for example, right? And
Amadeus.
right, or whatever. But yeah, they go out to the streets and sing the songs, and everybody knew the songs. So when they came, they'd sing along. And when they get to the movies in India, they're singing along with all the songs on the screen. They already know these songs.
Well,
So
it makes perfect sense.
Brilliant.
it's a great marketing strategy. And it galvanizes this audience, right?
Yeah.
This audience is galvanized as a group. That's pretty interesting.
Well, did we answer any questions? No, but I think we.
No, but you raised quite.
I think we defined the question
Some questions.
better.
I think it was even in today's paper in a letter, reference was made to the Kumbaya cloud. Why is that such a lightning rod?
Because people drag the song down so slow. No.
I don't know. It does not speak to me.
Why is it so, why, when you say the Kumbaya crowd, you're talking about the liberals and peaceniks and tree huggers and stuff like that?
Actually, I wasn't.
Well, that's what it's being used as these days.
Maybe so, but this was in a rather conservative Roman Catholic church, where and it was more for these people. It had no political connotation. It was their spiritual center of gravity. You know, I don't know.
Well, in the early 60s, the South African black musicians were imported into this country by white liberals and used as a sort of a...
Lightning rod?
Yeah, sort of a sales device. And they were not allowed to speak for themselves. They were speaking for a certain agenda, a white liberal agenda, which we would find, I think, very narrow and very complacent. Pre-Vietnam liberals, being a very different group than...
Maybe the keeper.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's go on.
That's a go.
But, you know, and I appreciate you're listening to me as if I know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert. And if we didn't, let's see, what's the best way to put what we do here? We don't answer any questions, but we have a great time wallowing in our academic hubris. Is that sufficiently cynical?
The smell of it.
The smell of cynicism.
The problem with computers is all they have are answers. And we have questions, or you have questions. Create the questions.
It's something that kind of interests me, both from a social justice perspective, which is something I believe in, and but also from the creative craftsmanship side. You know, somebody needs a jingle. Who do you hire? Do you hire someone with great philosophical insight to write that jingle? No, you go find a jingle writer who knows how to sell something, and it doesn't matter what he's selling. He's going to figure out a way to sell it with the way the jingle's put together.
Someone's buying more.
I always get on great.
On that note.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, guys.